As you get older, I think to be honest with you, you don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah.
It's getting mundane. It's starting to question you as a person. Like, why are you put on this earth? What's the purpose of you doing this? Are you happy at the end of the day doing this day in, day out? I found this new freedom and independence and financial freedom and security, and more importantly, fulfillment and the value of discipline, which is self-love. For me, discipline is self-love. Imposter syndrome is one of my challenges. I think I'm starting to work on that a lot and really understand. I think that's one of the traits of being an entrepreneur. You get that. It's like you get good and you also get this little baggage of negatives in your pocket. So managing that I'm not very good at a lot of things in terms of the entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is brutal. It may not be for everyone, but if it's for you, you've got to understand the brutality in that space.
Welcome back to Be Anomalous. I'm Sai Menon, and today's guest is Deepa Mani, a founder, community builder, and a cultural force who's lived multiple lives in one. Deepa spent years in the corporate world, long hours, high responsibility, the safe path, then made a decision most people only fantasize about. She walked away. Cold turkey. No half in, half out. No backup plan. What she built next is so powerful. An Indian classical and contemporary dance school rooted in identity, discipline, and belonging. And then a beauty brand, proud of color, created to challenge the way people of color are treated as an afterthought in the beauty industry and to reframe melanin as what it truly is: protection, power, and pride. In this conversation, we get into protecting your energy as you grow, why entrepreneurship can be brutal and lonely, how to stop waiting for perfection and move anyway, and the truth about having it all, just not all at once. If you've ever felt pulled between purpose and practicality, this one's for you. So let's get into it.
Welcome to Be Anomalous, Deepa. I'm so happy to finally sit and chat with you. Before we get into your, all the different things that you do and all the different titles that you have, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, thank you, Sai, for this wonderful opportunity to have a nice conversation with you. How do I describe myself? I'm a very passionate person and truly believe from the bottom of my heart that if you can put in all the effort, success is definitely down the track for you. That's a simple formula that I'm just abiding by in all of my little ventures.
Well, that is so true. And I think sometimes you need that reminder constantly to just keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's important that as women particularly that we realize our strengths as early as possible, and then start to shape our lives more meaningful, mainly for us and for the people around us.
Yeah.
And if we can do that as early as 20, which is really hard, really, really hard. But I think the 30s and 40s get you that realization. And if we can tune that realization a bit faster, it makes life a lot more meaningful and a lot more easy for us to enjoy and live.
Oh, yeah. So true. Did you always have that mindset?
I'm an eternal optimist. I think I've always been one. Maybe it's just in my DNA, I think. But that's really helped me to churn a lot of ups and downs in a much better way. I feel like I've always been this happy person, this energy. I've always drawn energy from people. I've always given energy. So I believe in that cycle. And that really helps me to thrive. I do like my alone time, but I'm the best when I'm with people.
So you would say you were always sort of like an extrovert?
I think so. I think I've always been an extrovert. I do like my introvert times when I have to really put head down and get into work. But I feel I gain a lot of information. I gain a lot of insights by talking to people, by understanding lived experiences. And that's really how my businesses have shaped themselves, because of really truly understanding the community, truly understanding what people are going through, what I'm going through, and understanding similarities and differences. And I think that's very important in nurturing yourself as a person.
You mentioned about, taking energy and, sort of, getting energy from people. But that can also be like, for me, I can take energy from negative people as well, which can be draining. So I have to be very conscientious of the kind of people that I'm surrounded by, because even just hanging out with someone that can, constantly be negative about certain things, it's extremely draining for me. And I bring back that energy. Is that the similar kind of thing for you, that you have to be very conscious about who you hang out with? And especially being a founder, you have to really you have to be very mindful about who you talk to, how you surround your, how you protect your energy.
Yeah, well, absolutely, 100%. I think I realized that in the last 10 years more so, because I didn't quite understand why it was happening when you're surrounded with this multitude of personalities and not really understanding what they're giving you. And then I think through my artistic lens, I've started to realize that energy channeling a lot more clearly, very transparently. And that's, I think now I would clearly say probably the last 3-4 years, I've been extremely mindful of really putting myself in inner circles that's really going to help me and help them. So where I feel, and you're going to always be surrounded by a mixture of people, but I think knowing that and understanding that and having that mindfulness and stepping away from there is a great maturity for an individual, regardless of their gender. And I think that can really help you to hone in on your set of people and identify your people and actually go towards them. I think that I've been trying to practice that a lot in the last 3 to 4 years, particularly ever since I've been a founder, because time is really of the essence. You can't throw yourself into groups and come out of it thinking everything will be fine. It doesn't work like that. As you get older, I think to be honest with you, you don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah.
And your time as an individual is very precious, and we have to value that. And that value is actually your self-respect, your self-esteem. That is a very attractive skill for the other person to lure towards you. And I think there's a lot of respect that comes out of relationships when you understand your time and really position your conversations like that. A lot of relationships can really thrive when individuals understand that. So I wouldn't say I'm an expertise. I'm expert in that, but this is something I've started to be very mindful of in my conversations. And it's really helped me to channel things, particularly for my business and as a character building trait.
You mentioned this is a trait that sort of changed since you became a founder. So let's go back to you not being a founder. You were in the corporate world. You were an analyst for a really long time, and a manager, and you've held really huge positions. So walk us through that process and how that was different versus who you are now.
Oh, that was just me getting into the corporate world and trying to see how much I can build up myself, scale up, and in 5 years, 10 years, a typical way. Because I have a similar background to you, and that's why I was able to relate to you. So I moved to the States to do my master's in early 2000, like 2000, 2001. And it was a different time at that point in America, where you finish your master's, you've got to get to your job, and you've got to really scale up and really do well. And I kind of had that mindset throughout for the next 20, 25 years. And it was building my character, but it was also just very corporate-y lens. You know how it is. It's just get the job done. But there was a lot of skills that I accrued from that corporate environment. So I'm very thankful and grateful to all of my mentors and my bosses. But I think there was always something lacking in terms of finding the true purpose. Like, where do you go from here? Like, what do you get out of it? There are times when I was probably working 75 hours a week as a consultant, driving from one state to the other. You know how we travel from one state to the other, stuck in the 495s and 295s. And it started to, I thankfully I still had my dance then. I've always had my dancing as my secondary career then, so that really kept me motivated and kept me healthy. But when I moved to Australia, and
When was that?
when was that? That was probably I would say 2009.
Okay.
When I really started the journey, and when I had my little one, and he was about 3.5 years old, the daily grind got to me. And that was very frustrating. Like, you've got a toddler, you're putting in like 50 hours of work, come back home, do the stuff. It's getting mundane. It's starting to question you as a person. Like, what are you? Why are you put on this earth? What's the purpose of you doing this? Are you happy at the end of the day doing this day in, day out? And then I started to scratch my head and say, okay, why don't I just take a break and I'm just going to do something with my arts, and I'll come back. And if I don't do that properly, if I fail, I'm just going to jump back, because I've got something as a backup here, my IT career. And I was one of those people who didn't want to do half and half. And I remember my CIO then was like, why don't you just take a break for 3 months and then come back? We'll still have this job for you. Why don't you go part-time? Gave me all the options. And I somehow felt, no, I'm just going to go cold turkey on this one. I'm just going to go very black and white. If I fail, I'm going to definitely find a job. I might even come back to the same job, in a different way. I never went back.
Yeah.
Touch wood. And I started to find, I found this new freedom and independence and financial freedom and security, and more importantly, fulfillment in creating something, in trying to change something in the community. And that really started growing from a founder journey for me. And then, going into my second venture. So that's just how but I really think, if I look back, I needed to have done that in order to realize. Had I not done that, I don't think I would be here even having a conversation with you. Everything leads you to certain events in your life, and you've got to do the hard yards in order to understand what your next path looks like. And so that's why I felt the corporate journey, in a lot of ways, taught me a lot of resilience. The management skills I acquired taught me how to really look from a holistic perspective, and also work from a bottom up and top down approach, and sort of maneuver myself. So there's a lot of skill sets that I felt it was transferable into a founder life. So I think yes, the trade-off was long hours and a lack of peace of mind. But on the flip side, we got a lot of soft skills, so to say, other than the technical skills to sort of grow you as an individual.
You made this decision that you said, like, you cannot do half and half out sort of a thing. There are still people who are doing it as like side hustle. What do you think, like, for someone who is deciding between their full-time job versus their, founder journey, what do you think is that decision that sort of helped you, or like you didn't want to, go back to this and have that safety net? Because a lot of the times people do that for, financial safety, or like have that safety net. What do you think that happens? Like, why do people not want to take the plunge?
I think it's primarily because humans are wired to not take risks. And so and acknowledging that is the first way to process that. There's two ways to look at it. Both are not wrong. It really depends on your financial circumstance. If your partner is in a bit of a better position to support you for 3 to 6 months, take the plunge and then jump back into it if it doesn't work. But if you're in a financial situation where you can't afford to take off for a few months, my suggestion is always start small, start easy on you, build slowly. This is, if you're in the long haul, you just have to build slowly, start to dedicate a couple of hours during the weekends. And that's how most of these big businesses have come about, because one day they were a side hustle, and now they've sort of really ramped up. And I think it's important as an individual to understand the situation you're in, and then make an informed call, particularly if you are a family. If you're alone, different thing. But if you're a family and if you've got commitments, kids and properties, it's very important to get a hold of that, but not to forget that little fire in your belly. And to also, and once you start to see traction and you've got a little bit of headway, you also have to understand the funds are actually supporting the little hustle that you're working on. So you've got to appreciate that you kind of have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I didn't deliberately do that because I felt I had a long career in IT, and I felt like it was good time, given my little one, I could just take a break in this, just push myself into the space. I needed a break, basically. And there was a lot of learnings for me. And thankfully, my partner really, my husband really helped me to sort of, say, go for it. Because, you've been in this space for too long. Everybody were very happy that I got into the space because they thought I would go much early. Little did they know I was going to take my own time to jump into it. So I think it's not a right or wrong answer. I think it's what's conducive for you in that situation. And making a very informed decision is an important aspect in starting something small and then pushing, and also not being very perfect about it. Your first product or your first client is you're never going to be the perfect first service provider or the first product. It's if you've got to make those silly mistakes, because that's the best thing. That's the best way to learn.
Yeah, I struggle so much with that. And then I think it was Reid Hoffman's post that if you are not embarrassed by your first product, then you waited too long. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so, because you have all this fear of launching, because will people buy it? There's so much fear associated with it, and then you just don't want to launch it, and you just delay it, make it perfect. But that's the worst thing that you can do. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I remember that saying, and I keep saying that literally every other day when we're designing products, to say perfection is not going to get you, and you will get there. Eventually your products will look much better, but it's seed to shelf. If we can make that a bit more smarter, then it's easier on the founder as well.
Yeah. Let's go back to your journey of, one of the things that you said about purpose. Yeah. I feel like throughout your journey, you were kind of ambitious and you kept going for it, but the purpose part of it brought you to your journey right now. So maybe you were always meant to be an entrepreneur. You just didn't realize it. Did you?
I think so. I feel like I'm starting to realize that this is where I truly belong.
Yeah.
I don't know how long this journey is going to go. I might do something else, but I feel like you're absolutely right. I feel like as I started to uncover this little window of opportunity, I feel like all of my skills I'm honing into developing this particular area, and it was very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Very empowering to and the next few years of my conversations, my relationships completely changed.
Yeah.
The people I was meeting, the conversations I was having, the meetings I was going into was very, very different. And it really opened up my mind to be this, have this growth mentality. And more importantly, have an open mentality where nothing is a problem. Nothing should shut you down. You never know. In the most dullest of moments, you could get an opportunity that could just work for you. And it started to teach me the purpose of rejection and failures. And that makes you strong. That really ticks in your head. That really changes you as a person. I feel like entrepreneurship has transformed me as a mother, as a better mother, as a better wife, as a better person, as a better friend.
So tell us a little bit about your first venture and then your second venture.
So my first venture is I wanted to start an Indian classical and contemporary dance school in Melbourne, because I felt where I was in that position back 8 years ago, I felt that I wanted the school to not be just a school, because there are a lot of schools. I wanted to have a place, an environment where people could come in and I can help them have a much more grounding impact on their culture. through art. And that means a lot of things. That just doesn't mean teaching dance. That means teaching them life skills, teaching them everything they need to know through dance, in order to really have that good, consistent, disciplined approach towards life. And I started to, so with that mission, I started to look at the dance school very differently. Obviously, we've now got about 4 verticals that we thrive on. It was only one vertical, actually running classes, but we do a lot more of that. Part of my personal brand also comes from my school, Chandralaya, where I actually do a lot of panel talks like this, a podcast. I represent the community in a lot of advisory groups here in the state of Victoria in Australia. And it's really started to, I started to engage in a way where through my art, I'm expanding on the diversity lens in Australia and creating opportunities for the next generations to feel that the hard work has already been done. They can now thrive in who they are, in their roots. And I feel very proud of that journey because it's taken me to an extent where now people understand Indian classical in a different way. And I've always had collaboration at the heart of our values. So we've collaborated with so many people beyond the South Asian community to really say art is really a form of expression. And by understanding each other's culture, we can respect each other a lot more. And that's where my first venture has been about. And we're coming up to our 8th year now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's from there. Stemmed Proud of Color Beauty, because as I started to talk to the community, understand, because when I teach dance, this beautiful art form called Bharatanatyam, I don't actually just teach dance. I teach it in a very holistic way, because it's a very mind, body, spiritual, 3-dimensional view of the culture. And in order to do that, you've got to instill certain values in human beings. The value of discipline, which is self-love. For me, discipline is self-love. The value of consistency, the value of resilience, the value of being persistent to attain something. And all of these in a very cyclical manner transforms you as an individual. How does it open your brain to grow, to nurture yourself? So, and by doing this, you also have to consider that you're feeding yourself well, taking care of yourself well. So you know how it becomes a massive journey. And I started to realize the community didn't quite understand the beauty space.
Yeah.
We have a lot of issues in terms of how we portray light skin versus darker skin. You probably relate to this. When we were growing up, being lighter was like the coolest thing.
Okay.
It is. But people don't realize this, right? This is a very scientific fact, and this is what I'm hoping to educate. People with melanin are one of the luckiest people on earth.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because we're not going to get skin cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the darker you are, you can sit there and you just have to it's not like you have to bask in the sun.
Yeah.
But your melanocytes that the body is producing is constantly fighting against the external factors.
Yeah.
And why lighten it when it's actually protecting you on this earth? And so why not appreciate that?
Yeah.
Why should we try and change something because the out there market is telling you all of these things, and the people pack on these products, and then they're not happy. And second thing is, there are disadvantages in being a bit, on the darker side, because you are prone to pigmentation. But not understanding the ingredients, not understanding the products, and going for all of these different marketing campaigns, and you're not helping them yourself. And in the process, people lose hope and they stick with the problem. So this was predominantly the issue that I was faced with. And I also have the same issues. As we grow older, our hormones are fluctuating. We have to make the right decision, both what you put topically and what you consume internally. And so then I said, hey, wait, there is a need here, particularly in Australia, which is a market that's still not opened itself to appreciating the diversity in its true sense, because we are an afterthought all the time.
Yeah.
When the Eurocentric beauty industry is designing a product, they're always designing the product keeping the Caucasian skin in mind, but the melanin skin comes at an afterthought. But this has changed recently in the last 5 years, 6 years with the brands. But still, we don't have a dedicated brand who's just focusing on this, because the diversity factor is increasing so much around the world, and particularly where we are in Australia. And so that's where it started. So POC was people of color. So I wanted to make it a very inclusive brand, and said proud of color. Regardless of your color, you need to be proud of yourself, because that's what you are. That makes you unique. And so that's the journey. So I started that in 2023, went live 2024, and we're building a slow range of products that's going to enable people to understand color. Color is good. Brighter colors are really good. They look beautiful on people who've got rich melanin skin. You've got to change this, and the more people talk about this, the more comfortable the audience are going to get. But if we don't educate people, they're never going to understand. And people don't deserve to be like that. People deserve to thrive in this earth. That's exactly why we've been put on this earth, to enjoy being ourselves. And so the brand really screams and educates inclusivity, and the products we choose, all of our products are ground up formulations for the olive and rich skin tone people. It doesn't mean it doesn't work for Caucasians, but what we're saying is we're working on this sector of people because they actually need products that truly work for them, both skincare and cosmetics. And our cosmetics are skincare infused cosmetics. So you get 2 in 1. So that's the journey. It's been very eye-opening for me to understand how the beauty industry is.
You have done so much. I've just been listening, like your first journey. So tell us, even how did you kind of figure out where to start when you started your, dance school, and how to kind of, because there's one thing about starting something, and, it's a huge challenge creating awareness in a different country for something that's culturally, not relevant in that space. So to get the audience and educate them, and also change the way people, think about it, it's such a huge challenge. So how did you kind of start that? And then also you have to monetize it, right? So how did you kind of work through all of that process?
I think with Chandralya, it was bootstrapping pretty much.
Okay.
With the savings and that I've had in my corporate career, and I probably didn't break even for the first 2-3 years, because it was really putting myself back in as a performer, as a teaching artist in the community, getting the trust of the people, getting the trust of my community, my peers. But it was a beautiful journey to understand how a founder actually has to survive and thrive. Rejections were all over the place, and I felt. And I was listening to so many people, mentors and podcasts, to say rejection is redirection, just keep going. And that was actually true. That's actually true. What is meant for you is going to come to you regardless. It's not going to go to the neighbor. It's not going to go to your enemy. It's going to come to you. But if it doesn't come to you, it's not meant for you. And we've all got an equal distribution, I think, of good and bad. We've got that. We just need to find that balance. And so my corporate skills really helped me to kick off the technical side of the business, starting a website and things like that. One area which I think I was not good at, and now I'm getting better at it, is how do you sell yourself as a service provider? And how do you market yourself? How do you put yourself out there and not feel shy? And so one of the things I realized, and this is where my extrovert came into play. See, I can talk to people, but if you go in front of the camera, everybody has a problem to start with. And so I was probably one of the first schools, I think, here, who just jumped online. I just went bang on social media. I started to put stuff on the social, just educational posts and everything. And that really grew in a way where people started to understand, okay, this she's talking about something which I really want to focus. And that's how it started to progress. And I've started to learn, and I took help from another marketing person who joined me, and I learned a lot from them. They learned a lot about Indian culture. So there was like knowledge sharing, and that kind of really grew to the point where I was able to stabilize the business and start to create multiple other verticals to really bring my personal brand out there. So, for example, my LinkedIn was very corporate. And then I was like, why don't we talk about my business in LinkedIn? That's also my bread and butter. Why can't I just speak about it in a professional way rather than, So then I started to do a marketing strategy where Insta and Facebook is a certain kind of messaging, and LinkedIn could be more serious, where I could be actually positioning myself to art investors, to artistic vendors, suppliers, and we could be having that conversation. So it's really important to, going back to what I said, like your lens changes and your conversation changes, your approach towards your business changes as you target different channels. And that was really educational for me. And people started to realize, okay, she's building something very meaningful, and having a diversity lens and how what I'm doing is impacting the community is a strong connection back to the people, isn't it? And that always sits very well. People give you their attention. And that's the same way I kind of progressed with Product Color Beauty. But a product base is very different from service base.
I was just going to say that, because it's two different businesses that you're creating, and it's completely different. I mean, there are some skill set that could be, you could use for both, but it's completely different journeys.
Yeah, product base really blew my mind in terms of the number of people I need to engage with right away.
Yeah.
Like, how do you find your best formulator, for example? How do you find a supplier? How do you find a packaging person? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yes, I have got IT skills. I've got some entrepreneurial skills in my service business, but I'm brand new. I'm starting clean slate. That took a long time to do. And that's the thing. When you're if you're an entrepreneur, you are in a research mind.
Yeah.
Because you want answers. You're going to do everything and anything to get to that answer. And finding an answer opens another neural pathway in your brain. It starts to position you to wanting and asking more, to learn. And I think that's how you grow. That's how I've grown in the last 2 years. And then really keeping your eyes and ears open, understanding opportunities, and don't be humble. Be humble as a person.
Yeah.
But don't be humble about your business.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so true. There's something that you said. I think it's inherent in people who are not salespeople to market themselves, and you really need to go out there and like market yourself and actually be proud. And I think also that might fall under being a woman, because you're not very vocal about your achievements, or I don't know. I think it's playing to both, but you feel shy to talk about what you've achieved or what you've done or how your business is, but you really have to be a marketer and
you're the best marketer. You know your business more than anybody else, and you almost have to have that sort of affirmation written somewhere, and really, really deeply wire it in your brain, because that can change a lot of things. Because the other side, no matter who it is, it could be an investor, it could be a potential customer, it could be your next team member, anybody. They need to believe your story. And it has to be authentic. And nobody else can say this more authentically than the founder themselves. And it's a journey. That's also a learning journey. And you've got to get better. And the more number of times you talk about your business, the better your story is getting. It's getting refined. It's getting refined every single iteration. And I think that's the power. That's your power. And I think that you have to do it. Certain things as a founder, you kind of have to do it. They are non-negotiables.
How did you kind of get good at it? How did you kind of get good at marketing yourself and pitching yourself? Did you have like some practical techniques that you followed, or? practiced?
I'm really good at it. I'm still learning so much, but the reservation to present it has worn off
Yeah,
slowly.
that's a huge journey in itself, I feel like.
Yes, that inhibition you get. I still feel eek if I have to face like 70 to 100 strangers, but I gotta tell myself, you have this opportunity to tell your story to 70 new faces. Clicks differently in your head.
Yeah.
Your posture becomes upright. Your attitude changes. Let's go. Let's get started. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
You've got to you in every opportunity you've got to find a way. How do you create a positivity in your brain that's just going to open up your brain to get more efficient? And that's how you do it. Simple mental exercises to tell your brain what's the outcome you're looking for. My outcome is as much as brand awareness about the passion that I've got and why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I'm going to have to say that story from 9 to 5 to 10 different people, by the end of 5 p.m., I would have covered 100 people. There you go. I may not get sales, but now 100 people have heard me say the same thing. And thirdly, I've gotten better at my story after speaking to 100 people. There you go. You've achieved something for today. Pat yourself and move on. So it's so important that these are little chunks of successes. And I think I do this problem too. I have this problem too, that we're so caught up with time and work. We don't sit back and say, okay, I've actually done this. This is a good thing. So again, practicing that gratitude, practicing that self-love is important.
So you've been finding these people and trying to, like, whenever there's this challenging situation, you've been finding the people. How did you kind of go from there? Like, even for your service industry and service business as well as POC, you said that finding the formulator, you had to like kind of teach yourself all of this. How did you go about that?
I think the first thing as a person you would need to do is write down your goals. Like, what do you want to achieve in 6 months and 12 months and things like that? Or what do you want to immediately? What are your quick wins and things like that? I think obviously researching your competitors, understanding what they're offering, what is your USP, why do you differ from them? What is it that you're doing that they're not doing? And what makes you stand out? Having that clarity helps you to then start researching on, where do you want to do your product? Do you want to do it locally? Do you want to do it outside of the country? What is your essence of the product? And then I really wanted to hone in on the local Australian formula, because I felt there's enough talent here, and a lot of people, and buying local is good. It's good for the economy. And so I started to venture into researching all the suppliers in Australia and seeing who I can work with, and literally cold calling them. It's amazing how many people pick up the phone and talk to you, because they probably know this, being a supplier, that the other person on the other side could be a potential client for I don't know how many years. And then you narrow down based on your clarity, and then you start to build the first product with them and see how it goes. It may not work, may work, but you have that. And then that's how I did it. And in terms of even finding and messaging and everything, you start to find out about different groups that are out there, different organizations for founders, and you start to position yourself in those places and start to have the networking. I think one of the most important traits for a founder is networking, and people think it's a waste of time. You're so tired from 9 to 5, you just want to go to bed, have some dinner, but you've got a networking event. What do?
Yeah.
You push yourself, get there, do it once, do it twice. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what conversation you're going to have. You might get a lead out of it. You've just got to have that, again, that mindset. Yeah. And then once you go to a few, you know which ones are worth your time, which ones are valuable, and then you can start to filter on them and have a better model to approach. But I think the initial stages, you've got to rock up. You've got to show up.
Oh, I cannot agree more with the networking part of it, and just in general, like just being able to go and like cold call and talk talk to people. How did you sort of decide, or how did you kind of hone in on how you're going to make sales? Like, did you decide on the retail aspect of whether you want to be in retail or like retail stores, or you just want to focus on D2C? How did you make those decisions?
I think I definitely wanted to make it a D2C because to start with, because it was going to be an online shop front. It's an e-commerce product. And I wanted to make sure I had the opportunity to reach the customer directly, have a conversation. And I started to do a few things, obviously, with the social media platform, engage there right away. And I love having an in-person conversation. So I started to do a lot of stalls. Okay. Because having the conversation, then seeing the founder and having a chat makes a huge presence about the brand and what you have to offer. And I think that I gained a lot of insights about issues in a little bit more deeper manner. And very recently, we're starting to expand on, wholesale and stockers, and we're slowly trying that out. I'd like to also expand. Eventually, I'd like to see Powder Color Beauty in retail stores where true representation sits. If a colored person walks into these stores, they can point and say, that is my range. I've got a range for them. I've got a range for myself to cover for me. And I would want more brands to come up. I don't want to be the only person because we need more.
Yeah.
There is room for everyone on this planet Earth.
Oh, I was having this similar conversation with one of my friends today where, founders have to uplift everyone and not think of each other as competition and put people down, because there's enough space for everyone. So if you're uplifting, like, grow together. And that's so important, because sometimes you just get lost in that insecurity or jealousy, and things ruin relationships. But yeah, you have to uplift each other and grow together.
I think that's such a beautiful point you put across, because that's one of the important traits as an entrepreneur. Like, if you're going to grow, you've got to grow with other entrepreneurs. Yeah. And finding that circle where it's trust and a good relationship is so good for women, particularly because it really improves our mindset. We actually create a better household.
Yeah.
Because of that one formula. And surrounding yourself with women who just are there for you, regardless of what. You could still have your other person who's doing the same business, creating different formulas and things like that. You both can equally survive and thrive and support each other. Really have that beautiful relationship, but not look at each other as competitors. But, really thrive on that. I think that's so important, particularly for women, that we have to find our circle. Yeah. Finding a circle is the best hormone replacement therapy.
Oh my God. I completely agree. And especially, as you grow older, yes.
Oh yeah, we need the love of women around us more than men, sorry to say.
Yeah. You need your girlfriends.
Yes, and I started to appreciate time with my girls a lot. And even if it doesn't happen that often because of life takes, I really relish those times, because they're very fulfilling moments for you. They really keep you grounded, and you don't need like 100 friends. You only need like 4 or 5 really good friends, and that can take you a long way, all the way through your retirement. And
Absolutely. I think those are like things you learn as you grow older, or maybe wiser. I don't know. One happens before. Yeah. What have been some of the major challenges that you faced?
Imposter syndrome is one of my challenges. I think I'm starting to work on that a lot and really understand. I think that's one of the traits of being an entrepreneur. You get that. It's like you get good, and you also get this little baggage of negatives in your pocket. So managing that has been. I'm not very good at a lot of things in terms of the entrepreneurships. I'm a visionary, and I like to go. I'm in the detail as well. I love chemistry. I love formulating. I love to work with formulators, for example. But there are other aspects of the supply chain that I am still learning. That's a massive challenge. So for me, recognizing what I'm not good at and asking for help was challenging. And I felt that I had to really cut out some of my baggages and actually just go for it. Just ask for help. Be vulnerable.
Did you have imposter syndrome while at your IT job as well, or it was something that you kind of felt later on?
I think I probably felt that a lot more in entrepreneurship. I don't know. It's also, you have to understand, entrepreneurship can be a very lonely world.
Oh God, yes. That's something that people don't talk enough about. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I always ask my fellow entrepreneurs to network, get a social circle, have a social circle, because it can get very lonely, because nobody believes in what more than you do. So everybody like, oh, she's an entrepreneur. But yeah, well, it's brutal. Entrepreneurship is brutal. It may not be for everyone, but if it's for you, you've got to understand the brutality in that space. It's good and bad, just like any other job, but it can get very lonely. So that's how do you manage that loneliness and still thrive? How do you manage that? That was a massive challenge. A lot of times it's just me sitting and just chugging time, working with people online, everything. But
yeah.
Sometimes I can't wait to have a full-fledged team. I'm manifesting it where I actually have a team and
Yeah.
feel a little bit more like
surrounded by people.
Working company.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. The loneliness is a challenge. The imposter syndrome is a challenge. Not realizing you're good at everything. You're not good at everything, and really delegating it and setting aside some time and money to get that job done and learning from that job is a very important trait. And the last thing I think the challenge is saying no.
Oh, yeah.
That was very hard for me. And that's at a point where I was probably working 25, 26 hours, managing both the businesses and family. And I had to literally step back and say, I can't be here. I can't be there. I cannot. And, relationships take a hit because of that, but you've got to do what you've got to do. Because if you're not healthy, you can't do it. You can't achieve anything, even let alone getting up from bed. That becomes the harder part. Yeah. So I think it's important, as entrepreneurs to learn to say no and to really be okay with it. And I'm nowhere perfecting that. I'm getting better at it. And I'm happy saying no, and I'm at peace with myself.
Yeah, that's also important, to be at peace saying no, because you have that guilty conscience, right? Like, oh no, I said no. Yeah. That's also learning in itself. I could talk to you about all of this. I feel like I relate to you in so many levels, but we always end the conversation with one favorite book and a favorite quote that you live by.
Oh my God. There's so many from, there's just one quote that I remember my late mom always tells me is, you can have everything in life, just not at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And and that stuck with me, particularly through the different chapters in my life. Like, you can have everything in life, but just not all at the same time. There are chapters in life that will find you the things that you want to do, but you've got to define those moments, but not try and get everything at the same time, because that's not how life rolls. And that really helped me to position when I started my first venture, when I started my second venture, even it's the chapters define you. And so don't hurry and try and do everything at all. But you can have that. There is a thing, like there is a saying you can't have everything. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I just think you can't have everything right now, but you can over the course of your life. You can, if you work towards positioning it.
That is so true. And a favorite book?
Oh my God. I got to look at my, I'm reading this book, which I will tell you about it. Just give me 1 second. I should know. I should know my books. Yeah. So, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Oh, I haven't read this.
Go read it.
Okay.
Good for entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely read that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Deepa. This was such a wonderful conversation. I think I have learned so much and I relate so much with you. And this is why I feel like founders talking to each other, you kind of, there's so many moments that you're like, oh my God, that is so true. Because you relate to that journey. And that's why it's important for founders to talk to each other, network with each other, or in general, people who are, doing the unconventional thing.
Oh, 100%. I think as women, we need to keep this conversation going, helping the next generation feel a lot more comfortable. But I just want to say thank you so much. It's been such a beautiful conversation. And in so many ways, we're all on the same path together. And it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
That was Deepa. This conversation felt really personal because when she was talking about entrepreneurship, she wasn't talking about the glamorous version. It was the real one. The loneliness, the second guessing yourself, the imposter syndrome that creeps in when you're building something no one else fully understands. And what I appreciated most is she's not trying to be the perfect entrepreneur. She's evolving in real time. She's learning what she's not good at. She's asking for help. She's saying no. And that's a different kind of strength. And I think sometimes we think entrepreneurship has to look aggressive or hyper confident or constantly scaling. But you can also create something while protecting your energy, building slowly and intentionally. The line that really stood out to me is you can have everything in life, just not all at once. And that hits hard because so many of us are trying to do it all at once. Maybe the real power is understanding your season and truly owning it. If you're trying to do it all, you're not behind, you're just building. I'm Sai Menon and this is Be Anomalous. If this touched you, the story resonated with you, please subscribe and share. I come with stories every week and I promise you I will not let you down. Be bold, be real, and be anomalous.